And the game of the year is mon ami Clair Obscur, Expédition 33!
At this exact moment in time, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has reached its final peak, and it's arguably set to become not just the best RPG of all time, but the best video game ever made. I myself put around 337 hours playing this game, and I feel that I could have played much more if there weren't so many other games that I wanted to play. The game has 12 Game Awards nominations, but it's worth mentioning that 3 nominations was actually in the performance category for Jennifer English, Ben Starr, and Charlie Cox, which eventually Jennifer English won this category, and eventually grabbing 9 the Game of the Year awards, including the Best RPG and Game of the Year. And for many, of course, there was probably no doubt that it will win Best Score in Music, because I still listening to Clair Obscur Expedition 33 music until this day, almost every single day. One of the great things about the game that it does exceptionally well in almost every single category. But what are those things that made it such an amazing game? And arguably one of the best games ever made. So it's a combination of many things: the gameplay mechanics, very addicting, turn-based with real-time elements. This alongside so many special skills, which in the game called Pick Toss, these are equipable items that work like Final Fantasy IX abilities that just let you really fun and deep build crafting experience. Same goes, by the way, to the dodge and parry mechanics. They were so much fun. I think even so much fun for those even coming from games like Souls-like games. It made the game feel kind of like when it comes to the real-time skill-based. And the higher you push the difficulty, the more challenging it gets. This is why you saw so many players who play Souls game and not even into turn-based game playing this game and trying to show off their skills. And of course there was much more into it that I can actually explain here in this video. Just to name a few: the fun QTEs, the weak points of enemies, the gradient gauge, gradient skills, and so many other features. It's like the developer took all the amazing things for so many RPG games and just combined them together to something one cohesive, but a combination of elements that actually work well together. And even to a certain degree perfect them to work well together. The story itself, very haunting, also cryptic. Of course, I'm not going to spoil anything here. It's one of these stories that you want to follow, you don't want to ignore. And eventually, of course, it reaches its highs and its peak, and well, you need to experience this yourself. I can assure you one thing: it will make you think, and it actually trembled the community. Well, I'm just going to leave it at that. It's also designed with great pacing. The game actually doesn't bore you. Every single moment, you're going to find something interesting. There are optional side quests and collectibles, secrets, hidden items and areas, but at the same time, when you discover things, sometimes it also advances the plot as well and deepens the character connection. And all that couldn't be perfected without amazing, well-written story, dialogue, and voice lines, both in French and English, done amazingly well. It helps you better assimilate with the characters, with different emotional situations there are in the game, and just elevates the entire experience, the storytelling experience, to a whole new level. Now, the narrative itself drawn comparison from classic JRPGs like Final Fantasy and others for its melodrama, but it's uniquely French in flavor and it's just beautiful, even when they added the little curses here and there. It has these touches of humor that just come at the right time and just give you kind of a little breather moment to kind of have fun and relax between the more harsher, darker moments in the game. The visual presentation and art style is absolutely stunning. I actually had a chance to replay it when I bought even a new computer to play on the highest graphics settings, and I was just blown away. Not that I'm saying that it looks bad on the lower settings, but what I'm saying that they really wanted to kind of squeeze out everything to perfectly match their vision when it comes to art style. It's layers over layers of really beautiful animations and shaders and textures and lighting. Everything just combines so well together in such a beautifully artistic way and creative way, and it just looked perfect. And it's also perfectly fit the theme and the story. You're gonna realize that as you progress through the game. And it's actually gonna hit you so hard as you get closer, of course, to the later stages of the game. Even during the game, you look at things kind of retrospectively and think about things you actually experience in the game, which is fascinating. It's a rare moment that rarely happens in games. Usually this is something that you see in well-crafted movies when you kind of think about them after you finish them. Because there are so many hints of things during the game you don't pay attention to until the the ending or close to the ending is actually revealed. But we say here that something that I think can be improved is the facial expression of the characters. There are situations when they feel a bit stiff, non-responsive, and not human-like, and this is something that I think can be improved. This is probably one of the highlights of the game, and this is its music and sound design. The fact that so many people just listen to the music way beyond after they finish the game is just a showcase of its tremendous achievement. The music was made by Laurent Testard and with the vocalist Alice Duport-Percier, who performs the lyrics and vocals melodies central to many of the game's emotional tracks. And one of the exciting things is that Laurent Testard's story is an interesting one. It was discovered by the game's director after posting his music on SoundCloud. So just the chances that something like that can just go into another direction, but it went actually that way, it's kind of just a beautiful Cinderella story. I mean, what are the chances that this could go any other way and how the game and music would be like today? So it's amazing, just posting those compositions on the indie video game forum on SoundCloud led to something absolutely epic in proportions. And I think this is why so many people love this the game and even the story itself of the company. It's kind of the rise of Central Interactive from obscurity to legend. And the fact that it has those mini story within how things came to be. How they actually mentioned that they use even YouTube tutorials because they didn't have, some of them have the experience to develop games in such a high level to create something that amazing. So they needed to learn from YouTube videos. Now you need to understand, this is a significant anomaly in the industry. The studio was founded in 2020 by Guillaume Broche, a former Ubisoft employee who left their corporate structure during the COVID-19 pandemic to pursue a singular creative vision. And the core of the team consists of approximately 30 individuals. It was also kind of a wake-up call. I mean, if that's what they can do in certain budget with limited amount of people, why so many games with so much higher budget and so many employees create subpar games? Well, my take on that is it's not because of the numbers and not the budget. It's about the talent and the passion, and they proved it. In other words, the success of Expedition 33 validates a development model that prioritizes a smaller, highly skilled team over mass-scale industrial production. Also, Microsoft, by the way, confirmed that Expedition 33 became the biggest new third-party game launched on Xbox Game Pass in 2025. And I have no doubt that the existence of the game on Game Pass also helps the game to get more traction. And then word of mouth actually helped the game even be elevated even more. It's just fascinating. It was fascinating to watch back then. You just continue generating a viral word of mouth effect that more players were very curious to see actually what is this game that everybody is talking about. And I can tell you even more. Players who might have been skeptical of a turn-based RPG from a new studio were able to try the game with low friction, leading to a massive conversions of users into evangelists for the title. I also think one of the great ingenious design of this game is basically melding of different genres. Because when I played the game, and definitely I saw lots of inspiration for so many other games, but the game felt unique. It felt different when I played it. I feel like I'm playing another genre, another game, which I can't really point to something, because it's a combination of different things that led to just a whole new experience. It's like you're just taking some basic colors, merge them together and create a new color. So it recalls, for example, turn-based JRPGs like Final Fantasy, Persona into structure, action RPG mechanics, time blocking like Mario's RPG, and even a dash Souls-like in stat scaling. But none of its element feels copy-pasted. And this just makes it far from being derivative. And I really think this is one of the most important things in this game that really make the gameplay itself feels fresh and unique. And this is the core of innovation in the game. This is something that really melded together everything to create really an unprecedented fun gameplay experience. And I'm playing so many games, and I can't tell you how many times a game just feels so familiar and of the same that I'm just getting bored playing it. But it was exactly the opposite when I played Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Now, every single character in this game was something special. Some of them were more relatable, some of them more enigmatic. Now, all the interaction between the characters, especially again in the cutscenes and in the camp, the choices between the interaction that some can lead to different outcomes, all of that led to something that you can relate to the characters. You can get emotional as well if you follow, of course, the story through. And all these things stay way after you finish the game. You remember the moments, the funny moments, the sad moments, the intense moments, your decisions, how they actually affect the story. And one very important part of it, that it makes you want to experience things again. Actually, when I miss the game and I want to replay it, I want to just hear the characters again. I want to hear the dialogue, maybe even to discover something that I missed. Now, there's something very special about the game when it comes to environmental storytelling. When I jumped into the game just felt like kind of open. It felt like it gave me a way to just roam around, of course, the overworld map. However, something felt different, and I felt it immediately when I started playing it. Now, in an era dominated by sprawling open-world games like Elden Ring, Assassin's Creed, Sandfall made the deliberate choice to embrace linearity. And when you start playing the game, you notice it. The levels are curated corridors and wide linear zones rather than open sandboxes. And although there are things to discover here and there in the open view of the map, most of the time it's all about entering certain closed zones. Now, of course, not that I have something against any decision to make a game like that or another, but this linearity allowed the developers to handcraft every vista. So whether the player is traversing in the flying waters, for example, kind of surreal seascape where waters defies gravity, or the island of Visage, the camera angles and lighting a control to ensure maximum cinematic impact. And there was some negativity about that people view, some critics view it as something negative, citing the lack of exploration freedom and the absence of a mini-map, for example, as a quality of life issue. However, the broader consensus has reframed this linearity as a strength. So by removing the bloat, in quotation, of traversing empty spaces to find collectibles, the game respects the player's time, and the lack of mini-map forces players to engage with the world visually, leading to landmarks rather than following a GPS line. And eventually all that led to higher immersion. Another thing is that the game felt rhythmic. I'm not talking about rhythm game where you need to be like perfect with the rhythm, but when everything comes together with the sound effect, the visual effects, the music and the different animations. So it creates some kind of really perfect harmony with the music, everything comes together. It blended so well that to some degree it feels kind of rhythmic, and it's very emotionally elevating. It's a combination of the easing of the animation, sound effects, slow motion, UI transitions, and everything together that leads to it. Nothing I can say I think can actually showcase, but I want to give you a snippet of from Go Blue Fight, which I think is a great example of that. For real, buddy?
Promo is flowing.
This will do lots of damage. Oh my god. I just rushed here, I didn't even take anything.
For those who come up.
Yep. It just creates something so unique and outworldly experience in gaming that I just never experienced before. So it doesn't have to be accurate rhythmic pace, but it designs so well that it gives this kind of rhythmic feeling to the combat that feels like nothing else that I've experienced before. Absolutely epic. There's so much things to say about this game, more than I actually mentioned here. The impact of Expedition 33 extends beyond the game sphere into national pride. Following the game's record-breaking performance at the Game Awards, even French President Emmanuel Macron publicly congratulates Central Interactive. He described the game as a historic first for a French title, and a shining example of French audacity and creativity. So this level of state recognition underscores the game's role in soft power dynamics, positioning France as a premier hub for iHeart video game development, rivaling the traditional dominance of so many games coming, for example, from Japan and the United States. Of course, the game won many other praises and awards. Now, this success challenges the industry obsession with quadruple A development. It proves that a small team with smart outsourcing and strong direction can outperform even a team of 3,000. And this is a critical lesson for the industry in 2025, where mass layoffs have plagued studios that overhired during the pandemic. Expedition 33 is viewed by analysts as the blueprint for the sustainable future of game development. Finite scope, high fidelity, and reasonable budgets. So yeah, 9 awards in the Game Awards 2025, and including of course Game of the Year, Best Narrative, the Best Game Direction. It also swept the Golden Joystick Awards, winning Ultimate Game of the Year. It also holds a user score of 9.6 on Metacritic, indicating near universal player satisfaction. I think nobody will argue this is one of the best games of the decade, but is it the best video game of all time? Well, as you know, some things sometimes need to cook more in order to get even better recognition compared to when they're close to their release date. And on top of all that, there was the post-launch support, the thank you update that sensible handling of post-launch content further solidifies goodwill. Instead of a paid DLC or microtransactions, they released a massive thank you update on December 12, 2025, actually during the Game Awards. And this generosity stands in stark contrast in industry norms, reinforcing the player-first philosophy that has ended the studio to millions. It serves as a victory lap, rewarding the community for their support and keeping the game in the conversation through the end of the year. And I think one of the biggest achievements of the game, and it should be considered one of the best games of all time alongside other things that I mentioned, is by solving the oldest problem in the RPG genre, the disconnect between turn-based and real-time. And on top of that, it marries this mechanical breakthrough with story that touches on the universal human experience of grief, alongside with high-fidelity matching visuals and the heart of an indie passion project. And for all these reasons, I think it stands as the defining interactive experience of no doubt in 2025, and a benchmark against which all future narrative RPGs will be measured. What are your thoughts? Is this the best video game ever made? The best RPG ever made? Your thoughts in the comments. Thank you.